So to any leader watching, if you want to be India's friend, learn from France. If you don't, learn from Canada. Their campaign against India continues. First, Justin Trudeau accused India of a political assassination. Now he's investigating India for election meddling. And listen to the details. Trudeau had announced a public inquiry last year. There was talk of Chinese meddling in the Canadian election. So the opposition put pressure on the Prime Minister. But the inquiry was never about India. It was about the likes of Russia and China, countries that have a history of foreign meddling. The US does too have a history of foreign meddling. But of course, Canada would not dare investigate the US. So this probe was focused on Russia and China. How did India enter the picture? Well, officially, there is nothing stopping the investigators. The committee can probe any country. But the real reason is this. Let me show you a headline from September last year. Jagmeet Singh wants India included in public inquiry on poll interference. I'm sure most of you know this man. If not, he has two things you should know. A, Jagmeet Singh is a bona fide Khalistani, and B, his party is keeping Trudeau in power. Now try connecting the dots. In September, Jagmeet Singh wants India investigated. In January, the inquiry names India. Coincidence? There is no such thing in politics. So what happens next? Public hearings, the first of which will be held on Monday. An interim report is expected in the month of May. The final one will be published by the end of this year. But forget the technical details. Let's focus on the politics. Canada had reasons to investigate China. Multiple reports accused Beijing of helping Trudeau's party, and logically it makes sense because Canada's opposition is fiercely anti-China. So Beijing would want Trudeau in power. And those reports also took names like Han Dong. Until last year, he was a lawmaker from Trudeau's party. Now he sits in parliament as an independent. Do you know why? Because he reportedly lobbied for China. And that's a credible lead, one that links Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party to Beijing. But what does Trudeau do? He turns the attention to India. He accuses and investigates New Delhi without proof. Just think about it. India is not China or Russia. We do not have state-sponsored hackers. We do not have shady lobbyists, nor do we have a history of meddling. So the investigation against India is political. It's about sending a message. And the end goal is quite clear, to club India with the likes of China, Russia and Iran as a country that meddles abroad, a country that targets foreign citizens, and a country that does not respect rules. But let's be clear, that is not India. If anything, it's the other way around. Indian leaders have never called for Canada to be broken up. Canadian leaders have. And that too repeatedly. India has never hosted anti-Canada referendums, but Canada has. Indians have not threatened to kill Canadian diplomats. Again, Canadians have. Yet India is meddling in Canada. It's a bit rich, isn't it? Especially coming from Justin Trudeau. This is a leader who openly comments on foreign elections, like the one in America. At the start, I mentioned the difference between France and Canada. I will show you an example now. Both Macron and Trudeau were recently asked the same question. What if Donald Trump wins the US election? This was the question. Listen to their responses.
I've always had the same philosophy. I take the leaders that people give me. I did it with President Trump during his whole term, his first term, and we achieved results. We could do important things together.
Mr. Trump represents a certain amount of unpredictability, but we will make sure we're pulling together and preparing for whatever eventualities.
That's the difference. Macron says, we will do important things with Trump. Trudeau calls Trump unpredictable. He says he will prepare for eventualities, whatever that means. So to recap, Trudeau openly calls a US presidential candidate unpredictable, a candidate he was once caught bad-mouthing on a hot mic. He also brushes aside allegations of Chinese support, yet somehow India is being investigated. Clearly, in Trudeau land, logic does not exist.